Welcome to designing a cohesive AI system. All right, so you know why to assess your organization carefully. You have probably gone through that assessment and planning process, and let's say you've narrowed it down to a few use cases that you can back up with confidence. You know that this is the direction that you want to go with AI. So now the question is, do you go out and buy that AI solution just off the shelf, or do you build a custom solution from scratch? On one hand, buying it would leave you with generic tools that would force you to conform to the vendor's specs. So essentially, you're giving up your competitive advantage. But then if you did a pure build, that's a massive expense. Just the minimum AI engineering team that you would need is like $600,000 annually. And that's just to keep the lights on. Not to mention how slow it is to deploy something from scratch. The smartest companies right now are rejecting the binary of having to choose one or the other. Okay. So today I'm going to teach you a hybrid approach, which we call our 80-20 rule. After that, we'll cover AI orchestration, which is a word that you need to understand as a leader because it's the connective tissue that holds all these cohesive systems together. And then finally, at the end, we're going to show it in action with a quick look at a tool called Conducto. I'm here with Valere CEO Guy Pistone and President Alex Turgeon. Gentlemen, if you are talking to a leader who wants to make AI work in their company, do they buy it or build it in-house?
Buy the 80% of your stack off the shelf. And then you build the only final 20% that acts as your competitive differentiator.
Yeah, so that 80%, think about like that's the major systems you already have in your business. A lot of these are proven platforms where there's zero value reinventing the wheel and what you've done, right? Because a vendor has already solved these better and cheaper than anyone else could. They've iterated on it, they've tested, they've gotten feedback, they've strengthened them. So that list represents what we call your 80% infrastructure. We're not out here buying our own data centers. We're using AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, security and DevOps. You don't write your own identity management code. You use proven tools like GitHub, Docker, etc. There's data platforms. You might have Databricks or Snowflake for communication. It's not going to get better in terms of Slack or Teams. And don't try to build your own CRM or ERP like Salesforce, Oracle, and HubSpot. Like they own that space. They have tested it. And that's why, we leverage these tools that already exist and are mastered in the market.
So the good news is when you buy it, you have an enterprise grade foundation. But the bad news is out of the box, these tools are built for just an average company.
Right. I mean, they don't know your business, right? They do not know your customers, and they rarely talk to the other systems in the way of like what you actually need.
Yeah, and this is a huge reason why AI projects actually fail. Stuff ends up in silos as individual point solutions and, here and there scattered throughout, the company. And the organization never builds the connective tissue, right, for the full system solution. So what we encourage our clients to do is buy that 80% that gives you the best in class capabilities, right? It's a good investment. Absolutely do that. But then that last 20%, like this is where you really want to think about that custom layer that tunes it all up and amplifies everything else. That is that deep integration within your company, forcing this into a unified system.
Yeah. So the way that I think about it is if you needed a suit for an event, you would be crazy to pay somebody to stitch that thing together from scratch, right? There's plenty of high quality suits you can get off the rack. So you spend 80% of your budget on the suit and reserve the last 20 for that professional tailor so that it'll fit you just right.
No, exactly. A lot of leaders assume, buying the tech, they're done. That's the finish line. It's not. It gets you most of the way there, but there are messy real world processes in your business software companies like don't talk about and don't know about. We at Valere, we help our clients like figure out that last 20%, execute on that last 20%. And that's the part that is just not off the shelf that you just can't find easily. It's very specific to you.
So the last mile is where most of the engineering effort goes. So that includes, number one, integrating data systems. We don't need to rebuild Salesforce. We need to build the pipes that make Salesforce talk to your inventory system and your AI agents. Number two is embedding it into your workflows. Let's say that you had a bank and they wanted a sequence where a loan application, it hits the server and then it automatically pulls the credit report and it routes it to the right, loan officer based on the loan size. So that would be an integration into their workflow. Number three is proprietary knowledge. So this is where you teach the AI your secret wisdom. So it's the unwritten rules that, let's say, if a VIP customer calls from the West Coast, you need to route them directly to John instead of the general call center, right? So it's really all the things that live in your head that are typically not embedded into our data systems. Making it usable in existing tools, and then keeping it operating safely over time. So implementing all of the controls and the supports to handle errors, the security, the compliance, the updates over time. All right, so Alex, let's say that you're talking to a leader, they're watching right now, they know they shouldn't build from scratch. They also know that a generic off-the-shelf tool is not going to cut it. So they want to do this custom service layer that we just talked about. If you could give that leader just one technical term that they need to learn next to pull this off without creating a total mess, what would that be?
It's orchestration. AI orchestration is quickly emerging as the core concept that I believe every business leader needs to understand that's going to look to unlock value using AI. So if I'm talking to a leader, when I talk to our leaders and our partners, I say that that's the one term that you really need to be familiar with. Orchestration is essentially the technical execution of that hybrid strategy.
Perfect. Well, that sets us up exactly for our next lesson, which is called AI Orchestration, the connective tissue. I'll see you on the other side.